Hello, Espresso Talk Today listeners. It's Robin here. Welcome to the show. The Espresso Talk Today team sometimes takes these first few minutes to highlight a certain issue or event or just an interesting thought that we have, and that's exactly what I'm going to do today. You heard that coming, huh? You knew that was coming. But first, I want to welcome all the new listeners to the show. We're so grateful that you want to spend this time with us. We hope that you will return for more uncommon conversations, and we hope that you'll also continue the dialogues on our social media platforms. Hans will tell you more about those later. To our regular listeners, welcome back to this week's Uncommon Conversation. We're happy that you are a regular part of our community of amiable intellectuals. Your presence and support are what encourage us to do what we do. Just a few short announcements, then we'll go straight to this exciting show. In fact, there's only one announcement, and it's really more of an explanation. Now, the Espresso Talk Today team did this show on stereotypes about a year ago, and we received a huge response from it, and that was fantastic. But I felt it was important to revisit stereotypes today. Why? Great question. I'm glad you asked. I'm always glad that you ask. Anyway, I just returned from Paris. And, I have done all of seeing the Eiffel Tower, going to the Louvre, and all those great things. And I've done those things. This time I decided to do something a little different. I understood that there was a community, an area, where many of the African people of the African diaspora have settled and brought a lot of the culture and the food and the clothes. And since I just returned from Ghana, I thought I would go see that place, see that area. It's not a place, it's really an area. And so I asked people about it. And whenever I ask someone, oh, where do I find it? And, it's called Little Africa or La Goutte d'Or in French. People always said, oh, yeah, it's there, but be careful when you go. And I thought, why would they say that? I said, is it dangerous? And they said, oh, you're just going to have to watch yourself, be careful, you might be robbed or something like that. Of course, that made me really worry. But then I realized, whenever I talk about going to an area that is not a typical touristy or typical, let's just say it, white Western area, I always get that same look of, you have to be careful, that's a bad area. Well, I went, and my mother and I went. And you know what I found? I found a really vibrant and interesting and fun and great community. There was great food, there was great clothing, there were, great. There was jewelry. There was a lot of interesting things to see. And what didn't I find? What didn't I experience? I didn't experience being uncomfortable. I didn't experience any fear. I didn't have any problem there. And then I realized, you know what? These are stereotypes that are persisting about black people and black communities. And that is why I decided to revisit our Black Stereotypes podcast. I hope you enjoy it. And by the way, if you go to Paris, go to Little Africa, go to La Goutte d'Or. You'll find really, really great stuff there. Now let's get to the show. To you now, Hans.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Espresso Talk Today. My name is Hans, and thank you for joining us. In today's show, Robin and I tackle the positive and negative impacts of stereotyping. So, grab an espresso and get comfortable for this uncommon episode. Let's listen in.
Hi, Hans.
Hi, Robin. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks. Thanks. Things could be better, but I'm not going to complain now. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's been pretty crazy busy these last few weeks, but surviving.
You know what? I was reading this article And since Black History Month is over, I've been actually now reading other things besides history. I've gone into some of my other race-focused readings, and this I thought this would find this one interesting. Um,
Okay.
it's about. I'll just read it to you. It's an experiment. It says here in a research lab at UC Berkeley. Yeah, go UC Berkeley. A number of years ago, white college students watched a video of two young men, one black and one white, in the video, who were in an argument. For half the participants, the video ended with the white man pushing the black man. The other half saw the black man push the white man. Everything else in the video was the same, and the two shoves were carefully choreographed to be as much alike as possible. So, how did the viewers interpret what they had seen? So, the white audience, how did they interpret it? 75% of those who saw the black man do the shoving said that it was a violent act intended to harm the white man. But only 17% of those who saw the white man do the shoving said that he was violent. Instead, they said that the white man was making a point or trying to be playful. Wow. Both groups accurately described seeing one man shove another, but they interpreted it in very different ways depending upon the race of the person doing the shoving. That is incredible to me.
Yeah, that's stereotyping, you know.
Uh,
So that
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they see the black person as being violent and aggressive, and the white person isn't associated with that kind of danger or aggression.
I guess this is something that's very prevalent in the United States, like negative stereotypes. I mean, I'm sure it's everywhere. Stereotypes are everywhere, but especially here in the United States, it's pretty bad. Black people are always considered violent. Um, they're stereotyped as poor,
Uh,
as low class, as thugs. So,
yeah.
and I mean, I guess the media has a role into this, but when you think of a white person, you think of somebody who lives in the suburbs and who goes to private schools. And
Right, right. And even if they are poor, you don't associate the violence or criminality, with them as people do a black person. So yeah,
yeah,
and I was also looking up some more stuff on stereotypes, and there are some older ones. I guess we identify now and discarded, hopefully, about the mammy and
uh,
Mandingo, the Black Brute and the Uncle Tom. And I thought, wow, those were, really strong
yeah.
stereotypes.
I, if I understand this correctly, these type of stereotypes, I think stereotypes, especially negative stereotypes, they come from a particular group. In this case, you would think white people who use stereotypes to basically create a caricature of black people to show them as lesser than them, as inferior. So that's their way of like creating a society where the dominant race, which I guess in that time is mostly white people, where the majority just thinks that black people are useless, are inferior, and I think that comes after I mean, it would those stereotypes did come during the slavery times, but it
Yeah.
was even more used as a weapon after the liberation of slaves, after the end of slavery. So
Yeah, absolutely. And like even during Jim Crow and segregation, and it wasn't just in those areas that had, slavery and segregation. It was throughout the country that
yeah,
these kind of stereotypes were
I mean, it spread. So now it was in the head of every white person.
right, right, and certainly, white people were made to feel very afraid of black people. Even a black man in a suit, or was considered a threat, and even a black man with a job or with driving a BMW was considered a threat and dangerous. And Yeah, I just wonder how these things keep perpetuating. I guess it goes within families and then friends. You see it in the media.
Yeah. I mean, if you create an environment that stereotypes a certain group, if there's no checks on this, then like you pass on that knowledge to your kids or the people around you, and it just spreads. If there's no checks on it, so that's how people uh, just learn to live with the stereotypes. They just get an idea of what the other group. They just haven't a thought on how what the other group looks like, but
Hmm.
usually it's not true.
Yeah, usually it's not true. And they say that, I mean, a stereotype being a fixed and overgeneralized belief about a particular group. And I mean, maybe there is, in a way, a grain of truth to some of it. I mean, of course, Black people do commit crimes just like any other group commits
Yeah,
crime.
many groups.
Yeah. And so people can always point to it and say, "Oh, look, see, look at what he did. That's exactly what we expected." Or maybe it is the not self-fulfilling, but it's that you see what you expect to see. And and it's that actually you actually discard what is inconsistent with what you expect to see.
Yes, and I also have to mention that I don't think it's just um, black people. There's there's stereotypes about Hispanics, stereotypes about Native Americans. I mean, stereotypes about. I mean, I guess there's stereotypes about every race, really, but like the negative stereotypes are mostly focused on like the people of color. So like you usually think of um, Native Americans as lazy or drunk or drug addicts, and that's not the real truth. But this is a way to demonize that particular group.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I do. And actually it goes with genders as well. I mean, we
That's
grew up
true.
accepting the thought of the dumb blonde. I mean, and that's
Yeah.
reprehensible, to think about that. You know, but I mean, there's also then the angry Black woman, and people seem to they don't have the same kind of reaction to that. If you say a dumb blonde, that's absolutely wrong. But it's also wrong to have the angry Black woman. But that was really attached on to Michelle Obama. You know,
Oh yeah. If I remember reading an article, basically saying that I guess it was in 2010, but I guess 2 years after the Obamas were in the White House, and they were basically waiting for Michelle Obama to just have an episode, quote unquote, episode where she was
wow.
being angry and like being like the angry black woman, but that never came. So um, I
Wow.
mean, just that's really tough.
No, I mean, is it a very highly educated woman from a great family, carried herself with poise and grace throughout, and yet they're talking about her like that.
Yeah.
You know, but I do remember too, on the flip side of there was this a police shooting, actually it's a sad case of by a Black police officer shot a white woman, and because she was running at him to report a crime, and he thought that it was a dark alley. He thought that he said he was in fear of his life. He actually shot and he killed her. Like I said, it's a very sad story. But at the trial, and he did go to trial, and he ultimately was convicted. The prosecutor was saying, "Does this white woman? She's blonde. She's 5'4". She's petite. Is this the image that you have of a criminal?" And so he is using that's kind of stereotype to, to say that you can't be afraid of a white blonde woman because she's not a threat. But on the other hand, with a Black person, you can have that kind of stereotype and be afraid. And it gets acted on as well. So I
I
just
mean, unfortunately, it's those are stereotypes that people of color have to live with because it's not just it's spread out throughout the entire community, throughout the entire country. People have ideas, have people have like biases against those groups because of these stereotypes. Unfortunately, these stereotypes are something we're living with because
Yeah.
you know, it has a negative effect on people of color, especially. Like, for example, if you try to go for a job, if somebody already has this bias about you that if you're black, you're uneducated, you're not smart enough, you're low class, then when you're doing the interview, they're probably not gonna care that much. They're just gonna give you a few questions and you leave, and after that they just cross your name because they already have this bias against you.
Right. Right. They were saying too, like on resumes when you send it in, they said that the Emilys and Gregs are more employable to get more responses than the Lakeishas and Jamals. You know,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's bad. That's very bad.
I mean, so
And
much to that. Hmm.
yeah, and like, what does that do to somebody who has to live through this? Like, their mental health is probably affected by this because
Yeah.
maybe they're doubting themselves. Like, maybe I don't have the skills to be good enough, and like that can cause some real self-esteem and mental issues in people.
Oh, absolutely. Gosh, you're so right about that. And then also, they said, when the stereotypes get attached to you, unfortunately, a lot of people then start behaving in that stereotypical fashion. They just adopt that as this is who I am, and that's that's that happens.
It makes a tough environment even tougher to live in.
It does, it does, and but I do think that there are stereotypes that could be considered maybe positive stereotypes. I'd say put positive in quotes, like
Also,
like Asians, they say are really good at math. Okay, and that that black people are all good at sports, and that black people can sing. All black people can sing, and that gay men are really stylish. You know, um, and I wonder. I mean,
I
if
mean,
those could be positive, I wonder if they're harmful.
I I don't know if you would consider those positive. I mean, not.
Hmm.
I think that's a generalization that you get caught into. Um,
Okay.
I like you said, like there's the stereotype that Asians are good at math. Well, that actually creates a big pressure on the societal pressure that Asians have to be good at math. And what if somebody's just an Asian person is not? They're very good at I don't know, like
Literature. Yeah, yeah, they're English. Yeah, right. Uh-huh. English.
so. I mean, that still creates a negative connotation that people have to live with, and their true values um, are not being shown to society because there's such a bad depiction about them. Like, Asians are good at math, so are Asians supposed to be good at math? Like, it creates a pressure on people, and again, that can create some serious mental issues because of the pressure that is upon them.
Right, right. The expectation, and yeah, and even they say, well, all blacks are good at sports. People get surprised if a black person doesn't play basketball. And they're like, what?
I'm not good at sports, so
But even, I hear a lot of sportscasters when there is a black person who is very good at sports, maybe a professional, but they are like innately good at sport. It's something that just comes naturally to them instead of a lot of hard work and discipline. But white players, the white counterparts, might be considered intelligent players, whereas the black players are considered just naturally gifted. And I don't like that either. So maybe it's a backhanded compliment, or to say that, oh well, you're very articulate. Well,
I mean, I'm a little reluctant to use this term, but maybe it's an ignorant compliment.
ah, I can go
It's
with
like
that. Yeah.
You don't know better, but that's what you know. So you just say it.
Yeah, I saw this one show too recently where this black woman, she has a very strong character, a strong black woman, and people were saying, "Wow, she's going through some difficulties," and they were like, "Well, you're the strongest person I know. You'll get through this." And she got so angry with everybody, and I thought, "Why? I mean, that's a
Really?
compliment." But then she said, "You know what? I work hard. I am strong, but things are still difficult. That doesn't mean that I can take anything. It's you're allowed to treat me however you want because I'm a strong person." And I
That's
thought,
true.
yeah, that does kind of excuse certain behavior. So, yeah, she can take it. She's strong. A strong black woman. And yeah, I mean that puts a lot of pressure on a person, as you were saying, before. So so are we thinking then that stereotypes, wherever we find them, really are harmful, actually?
Yeah, it's. I think stereotypes are just. You may try to, I don't know, try to do a good thing by having positive stereotypes, but that may make things worse or just not good for specific people. So
Mm, yeah.
yeah,
I was reading too. It even in young ages, black kids in kindergarten are more likely. They said 42% more likely to be expelled for or suspended for bad behavior than white kids who do the same thing. And there was this guy described it really well that when it comes to black people, they get the cops, but with white people, they get the docs, they get meds. They're more
wow.
concerned that they need the medication. you know
I
Whereas
mean
black.
that's pretty accurate. Like I mean, think about the black shootings we've had in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The police officers always say that I was afraid for my life. They were gonna. Um, I thought he was gonna kill me or
Yeah.
hurt other people. Then they shoot these black people. But when I can't remember which shooting it is. Wow, this is a
Minnesota.
sad comment, but this white person had he did a school shooting. I think it was Florida, but I could be wrong. He did a school shooting and he walked out. The police arrested him. Even if anything, like they gave him food and um, or beverage. I don't remember which one it was, but
Yeah, this was
they were
in
like,
South Carolina where he had just killed 9 people.
okay,
Still
yeah,
with the gun. Yeah.
yeah. And they were basically saying he's a sick person, like he has mental issues, but if it's a black person, like he's just a criminal, like he's dangerous, he looks dangerous. It's just a bad stereotypes.
Yeah, they're life threatening at times too. I mean, they can keep you from getting a job. They can keep you from getting housing. You know, uh, Even doctors have these kinds of stereotypes that they act on when they're making diagnoses and deciding which patients to accept and which not to. And and then the law enforcement also is all acting on these stereotypes. But I wonder how much we accept these stereotypes too. I guess when you're always seeing the only people that you see that are doing well are, maybe sports figures or people who are, maybe criminals or drug dealers. Maybe you think those are your only options for Black people, and I hope not. But I think the media does have a, it,
They
it,
do have a role in this because
Mhm.
they have this. I mean, given their biases, they portray people of color in a negative light. So, and the media projects to everybody, so everybody just gets this idea. Especially if you show something again and again and again,
Yeah.
so they just get have this idea that oh, maybe all black people are criminals and thugs. So
Yeah, and even if they meet somebody that isn't, they say, well, that's just that one person, the you're different, you know, kind of a, feeling. And, that people, when they adopt stereotypes, they adopt them easily and they let go of them. They're reluctant to let them go. So, but there must be a way, that we can fight these stereotypes.
I
And
mean, the thing that comes to my mind is that I think people have just have to expose themselves to diverse backgrounds.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I can speak from my own experience. Like, I really got exposed to so many cultures when I went to um, college.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, and I learned a lot about other people's cultures, like the different backgrounds of so many people, and it opened my mind. So I think a lot of people should really expose themselves to diverse cultures, because if you, I mean, for example, if you're white and you live in this super white area, and you have all white friends, and you never really talk to or hang out with black people, you're not,
Mm.
you know, you don't really know them. You don't really know. You don't have a real knowledge on what a black person truly is. You just know what you see in the media and like what you hear from people's mouths.
Right. Right. No, I agree. And absolutely, we should spend more time with people. I mean, all of us should that don't look like us. But I think, as you're saying with the media, we're getting then conflicting messages because the media is really persisting with some of these stereotypes. And, I think maybe it's, having more Black people or more diverse people working in the media too could help
Yeah,
stop that.
I think that also goes back to, I guess we've talked about this in one of the previous shows, but if you hire more diverse staff in the media, then they're likely to influence the messaging of the media. And now, still, the media is pretty white dominated.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And even if it's, it's the full spectrum of the, conservative to liberal, but still it's very homogeneous. And well, one thing I know my husband was saying was that at his job, they started offering kind of diversity and inclusion training and to help people to identify some of their unconscious or even some of their conscious biases. And, and think I, in a way, I feel really good about that. But I said, well, how long was this? Like a long class over, many days and many meetings and stuff. He said, oh no, it was like 2 hours. And
Well, it's not a lot.
no, no, maybe it's a beginning, but it's definitely not. It's not enough, I think. You know, but if there are classes like that, and people come, with the thought that they want to that they are going to be open to their own biases and their own the stereotypes that they're offering, well, acting on, things can change. I think slowly, but the media, I keep coming back to that. I know.
Yeah. I mean, the media is such an instrumental role in our lives. So they're everywhere. So I mean, I guess in a way it has to start with them. So
Yeah, and perhaps and maybe even the entertainment industry is also, a part of it too. I mean, I think since the Oscar so white hashtags started, I think there's been more inclusion and some changes, uh, but I think there's still not enough
yeah,
there. Yeah. So well, you know, um, but maybe things looking hopeful. You know.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, but maybe it's also on each of us too when we hear stereotypes too to really to confront
Yeah,
them.
we have to be able to talk to people and say, hey, don't generalize like this. Don't use those stereotypes. I mean, it's really hard. I mean, everybody has some sort of bias against a certain group or a bias against something.
Right.
I mean, I guess it's also hard for us who have to educate other people to like, remember that a stereotype does not represent a person. Like
True.
person. You have to. It's. I mean, I think of it as. I mean, unfortunately, stereotypes are always gonna be there, and this is the society that we live in, and but it's up to us, like ourselves, to fight our own biases and to educate other people, to always keep an open mind to make sure that they're not generalizing or giving a negative stereotypes to other people, especially minority groups.
No, Completely agree. Yeah, they will be there with are human beings. They're going to be stereotypes and biases and that kind of thing. And yeah, you're right. We confront it where we see it. And
Yeah. But it's a very long and hard struggle that I'm not even sure if that will ever end, this fight. So
nope. Then we just keep fighting. Yep. But I have finished my espresso.
oh
And
darn.
yeah. So the fight continues, but I'm sorry, this conversation coming to an end.
Okay, no worries then. Until next time then.
Yeah, this was really interesting, Hans. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
And yeah, you brought up some stereotypes I hadn't even thought of, and but I, was aware of, and but I hadn't really given any energy to. But I will now. So I'll think about that.
Yes. Yeah,
So
and we, this is how, we learn from each other. We understand like the biases of others so that, we can try to educate more people. But that's how we have to do it.
yeah, that's the way to do it. One person at a time, and one espresso at a time. Okay, well, you take care now.
Thank you, Robin. Take care of yourself.
I sure will. I'll see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye. Stay safe.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Espresso Talk Today. So, let's have some after coffee thoughts. Robin and I talked about some of the history behind the stereotyping of people of color and why it is used as a tool to demonize those groups. We both agreed that unfortunately, stereotyping will remain part of societal structure, but it is up to us to do the best that we can to keep an open mind about others and fight the idea of those stereotypes to the best of our abilities. Now, we have some questions for our audience. What is your definition of stereotyping? How can we fight the ideas of stereotyping? Why do you think that people stereotype each other? There is so much more to discuss, so please don't leave us now. We really want you to join this conversation. We are inviting you right now to join us on Facebook at our Espresso Talk Today podcast page or on Twitter at Espresso Talk Today. You can also visit our Espresso Talk Today YouTube channel to watch short educational videos. We are anxiously awaiting your thoughts and opinions. After all, this is the place for thinkers. Well, that's all for this week. Be sure to join us again next week for another uncommon conversation that is full of information, inspiration, and passion. You do not want to miss it. You can listen to our episodes on our website, expressotalktoday.com, or on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to a podcast. Next week, we will definitely have another interesting talk. So, be sure to bring your espresso. You might even want a double. See you next time. Ciao.